So to get my poached eggs started, I'm doing some water here. It's about, I don't know, a couple of inches of water, just up to the rivets in the pot here. That will let my eggs be under the water, because if they're not under the water, they're so not gonna be cooking. Now, the key to making poached eggs, and what we're really looking to happen here, is we're gonna put some eggs in a gentle water bath and cook them ever so gently so the whites are all done and the yolks are still warm and runny and flowing. The key to achieving that is vinegar, about 3 tablespoons. I find this is the perfect measurement for that. It helps if you make that noise, because that will give you the unit of measure. So that coagulates the whites, makes them sort of hard around the edge the second it hits that pan. Look at this. I have beautiful, beautiful, nice big fat asparagus. The tips look really fresh and tight. They've got a purple tinge to them. That tells me that these guys were picked very recently. You're like, what? Purple asparagus? But that's what happens when they grow. Asparagus actually grows out of the ground like this. It's very cute. And when we get these deliveries of cases of asparagus to the restaurant, they come standing up like that. So when I was a kid, my job was to snap the asparagus like that. You know what? I don't have time to do that in the restaurant anymore, so I just do this. Look at that. Super speed demon. And those guys go in my thank you for coming bowl. You know, they're woody. Maybe if I was gonna make asparagus soup, I might use those, but for today, not so much. So I'm gonna get these guys ready to grill. I'm gonna put them on a little sheet tray. Okay, and with this dish, you know, in a poached egg, I really love some bread to mop up that egg yolk. So I have a lovely loaf of Tuscan bread here that I'm gonna do in big fat slices to grill the same time as my asparagus. I'm gonna go ahead and earl up my asparagus, because I'm gonna shoot these guys on the grill. You know, asparagus isn't something all the time that we might think to put on the grill, but I actually really love it. It gives it a beautiful sort of charred color and flavor. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna grill some bread as well. Grilling is one of those things that, you know, it's like sort of a guy thing that we like to do. My dad is an excellent grill man. He actually shovels a path in the snow to his grill all winter long. And he says, my daughter, who's a chef in New York City, says I'm a good grill man. So makes him very happy, but he actually really is. So let's get these guys on there. Woo! Little fire. Keep your arm out of there. Ho, ho, ho. Smelling good already. I'm gonna grill my bread at the same time. Okay, let's hold this for later on. And let's think poached eggs. I'm gonna go ahead and poach these now. You know why? Because I can. Who knew you could poach eggs ahead? We poach them ahead and we put them in a little bit of an ice water bath. I know, right? Who knew you could chill a poached egg? But I'm telling you, every single time you go out for brunch and you have an Eggs Benedict, there's not some little guy there poaching an egg to order every time. So eggs are really a great thing to serve with my asparagus. The yolk drizzles down there. Ooh, look at beautiful things happening. All right, so poached eggs, one of my favorite ways to cook an egg. It's actually not only, you know, healthy, no oil and all of that and stuff, but it's fun to do. So I've got my water with a little vinegar in there, hot, boiling, and I'm gonna turn this down so I see things kind of settle down. Instead of like a crazy, you know, egg drop soup we're making here, we're gonna do nice, easy cooking to make sort of an egg jacuzzi. Very gentle cookery here. So we give them a crack. We drop in very gently to the surface of the water, and that egg kind of makes a lovely little egg package due to the vinegar that's in the water. That's what it does to the egg white. All right, 2, 3, and numero 4. All right. I've got my eggs poached that I'm just removing from my poaching pot and putting in my water bath. That's what I like to call my holding pattern. My asparagus is grilled. I am gonna let those hang out right on the tray that I earled them up on. Look how beautiful they look. And you know what? We're gonna serve those at room temperature. I am all about serving cooked in a different method in the restaurant at a room temperature. That's a trick that we use all the time. So I've got a little bit of garlic that I'm gonna rub on my bread. It's amazing how one little clove of garlic with just a few strokes on my bread can make such a big flavor difference. I'm gonna drizzle this with extra virgin olive oil, my big fat finishing oil, as I plate it. I'm going to swing back into poached egg mode. So I'm really going to just take one of my eggs out of the holding pattern into the poaching water that I had set up earlier to warm it up. And while that's warming up, I am gonna go finish up the salad for this. I have a little bit of baby arugula. I am gonna dress this guy with one of my favorite vinaigrettes, fresh lemon juice, of course salt, and my super high quality extra virgin finishing oil. Toss this guy around. Perfect. All right, let's plate him on a pretty little plate here. Thanks for coming. Some of my grilled asparagus that I did earlier. I'm gonna dress some of my grilled bread with lots of olive oil. Cut this guy in half. Ready to roll. Poached egg out of the warming up water onto a pit stop. I really don't want my salad to be soggy from poaching water. So right onto the asparagus. Look how beautiful that looks already. Ah! I'm gonna grate a little bit of Parmigiano over there and a little bit of fresh lemon zest to carry on that fresh lemony flavor. Oh, beautiful. Couple drops of this. And the toast for sopping up that egg yolk. Is that gorgeous or what?
I've got my perfect scrambled cheesy eggs, moist and tender with Monterey Jack and cheddar cheeses, melted right in. And on top for good measure. Hey, today it's all about a yummy diner breakfast. Let me tell you, I love nothing more than doing some early morning hard work and then going to make someone else do my breakfast. Or it could be breakfast for dinner if you ask me. The diner is where it's at though. And I'm getting ready to show you how to make my perfect cheesy scrambled eggs. I've got a full dozen of eggs right here in my bowl. I'm gonna add a splash of water. There we go, about a tablespoon. And then I'm gonna just whisk them, okay? And when I whisk, I'm trying to get everything nice and frothy. Now you might say to yourself, what's the water all about? Okay, 1, my granddaddy did it. 2, it makes sense. You add a little bit of water to these eggs, you start to cook them. The heat makes the water want to escape, and it creates nice little air pockets, so it allows you to have nice and fluffy eggs. Look at that. All right, now in my pan here, I've got some butter melted. I'm gonna get this into my pan. Now here's the goal with perfect eggs. Slow and low like barbecue, okay? We don't wanna cook these high. We don't want them to be rubbery. I see a little bit of yolk I left there. All right, let me start whisking this now. It's slow and low, but it's also something you gotta tend to. So what I like to do, without burning myself, is kind of go in a circular motion with your whisk here. All right, about halfway through, when it's kind of half done and half still wet, perfect time to season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. If you do it with salt any time before this, they end up kind of tough and rubbery. All right about now, kind of wet, not dry, it's the perfect time to add the cheese. And let me tell you, to me, when you go to a diner and you ask for cheese eggs or cheesy eggs, it's not about them just being sprinkled with cheese. You gotta put some cheese in it. Hold it together. So a nice little sprinkle of my Monterey Jack and cheddar blend, and then just continue to kind of whisk and incorporate it. The heat of the eggs is gonna melt in. Gosh, man, this is gonna be so good. All right, so I'm gonna let this sit out. Remember, slow and low. So really at this point, you can almost turn the heat off. I'm gonna do that right now because my pan is nice and warm. And then my scrambled eggs. Oh, gosh, let me tell you. I have a friend in Michigan who loves eggs so much, it's his email name. What's up, Lance? He loves them so much. He's just like his whole life. You know someone like that? They love some food and they just make it everything. They call their dog, their cat, their firstborn. All right, a little bit of cheese over the top. And come on now, the cheese eggs, oh my God. Really good. Slow and low is the way to go with that.
Deviled eggs are a must-have for any Southern party, and I'm adding my own twist. Today is my bridal shower, and I have taken the responsibility of cooking for my own bridal shower, which I don't mind at all. So I'm making some bridal shower brunch bites. Now I'm making deviled eggs, but they're not any old plain deviled eggs. I'm adding a fried shrimp on top. It wouldn't be the Low Country if we didn't do that. All right, so speaking of shrimp, I am going to let my shrimp sit in the buttermilk and then get started on my egg. Okay, so I have a little bit of salt and pepper that I'm adding to this bowl, which has some buttermilk in it. I have about a pound of Charleston white shrimp that I have peeled and deveined. I leave the tail on to give it a little structure, and also it's cute once you fry it. Putting it in the buttermilk helps that coating adhere to the shrimp because, I mean, shrimp doesn't have skin on it, so it needs something to help it stick, and that's what that buttermilk does. Make sure it's nice and coated with that buttermilk. I have 12 extra large hard-boiled eggs here. I'm gonna use a food processor to make my filling. So I'm just gonna dump the yolk in there, and then I have this cute little tray here that I'm gonna put each half on. Any occasion where people are gathering in the South, there is going to be a plate of deviled eggs. And you gotta be careful who makes the deviled eggs, you know, because you can't have no nasty deviled eggs. You'll hear about that next year. Don't let Susan make them deviled eggs. She put raisins in them. All right, so for the rest of the ingredients in here, I have my egg yolk. I'm gonna add a little mayo, a really good mayo. A little yellow mustard. You gotta have that yellow mustard in there. A little sour cream, some sweet relish, a little salt, a pinch of my house seasoning. You don't wanna make it too salty. And some freshly cracked black pepper. All right, so I'm just gonna turn this on until it becomes smooth. I like putting my yolk mixture in the food processor because I pipe this out into each individual half, so it comes out really, really smooth. And that looks perfect, and I'm actually gonna try it before I put it in the piping bag. Oh man, and it's not too salty, has a little tang from that mustard, and then the sweet relish just brings it all together. That's awesome. All right, so I have a jar here to help keep that nice and sturdy while I add my yolk. Yummy. I have a star tip on my piping bag. Hear my grandma and my mom talking right now. Don't you waste that, get all of that out of there. So I'm just piping this. So I'm starting off like that, kind of holding my bag not too tight because I don't want too much to come out at one time, and just gliding it up just like that. It's gonna be like the bed for my fried shrimp. Those look beautiful. Now I'm going to dredge and fry my shrimp. I'm gonna combine 1 cup of all-purpose flour, about a half a cup of yellow cornmeal, and that's gonna make it really crunchy. Here in the South, we love using cornmeal on our fried seafood. A little seafood seasoning, and a little extra pinch of salt. Mix it all together. Taking my shrimp that has been sitting in that buttermilk and just dredging, and I dredge the tail as well. You know, I wasn't one of those kids that kind of dreamed of becoming a bride and a wife, and I wanted to be super independent. You know, as I got older, I just realized that you can have your career and be a wife. I always say my friends are an example of that. Because I got engaged a little later, I was able to kind of see everyone else and what they did, and I'm like, I can have that and have that too. And that's exactly what's happening. I have my career, and I also can be a wife and have a family in the future. All right, I have my oil heated to 350. I'm gonna fry these in batches until they're golden brown. This is gonna be my first batch. I have some neutral oil here, some canola oil. You can use vegetable if you'd like. I stick between canola and vegetable oil. Give that about 3 or 4 minutes. Ooh, these are pretty. That's why I love using that cornmeal. It just gives it this pretty yellow color, this tint. I love it. All right, I believe these are done. Look how pretty they are. And let me tell you something. You'll know if you've overcooked shrimp if they get a really, really tight curl. All right, so I'm gonna drop my last batch And while that second batch fries, I'm gonna build myself an egg. All right, so I'm just gonna take my shrimp, put it on top of that egg, add a little dill, fresh dill on top for a little garnish. How pretty is that? Oh, that's really good. The double egg by itself is awesome. And then you just add that shrimp on top. It's like the icing on a cake. It's delicious. All right, my second batch is almost done. I'm gonna build the rest of it. And it's almost time for my bridal shower.
I'm gonna make the egg mixture for the egg bites. It starts with 4 eggs, and I wanna make it really creamy. So in goes a 1/4 cup of heavy cream and a 1/4 cup of sour cream, and then some salt and pepper. And that is as complicated as the egg mixture goes. This is a great recipe because you can do so many different versions. Imagine anything that you would put in an omelet, and that's what you can put in a ready-to-go egg bite. Now, to assemble them and get them ready for the multi-cooker, I'm gonna use one of these great molds. You can get them online. And I sprayed it, and I'll take a couple of spoonfuls of the chorizo and onion mixture, and then a little pinch of grated Monterey Jack cheese. And then all you have to do is just pour enough egg mixture to reach just below the rim. Okay, now I'm gonna do 6 more exactly the same way. Okay, the mold is all filled. I'm gonna cover the top with foil just to get it all secure in there. Okay, now before I put this into the multi-cooker, I'm gonna put in the little trivet. It comes with it. And I'll pour some water into the machine. And then I'll just carefully lower the mold into the machine. And the lid goes on. And now I'm all set. So it's ready, steady, cook. I'll switch the pressure valve to sealing, press steam, and set the timer for 10 minutes. Then let the pressure release naturally for 10 minutes. And use a wooden spoon to set the valve to venting for quick release of the pressure. Okay, now that all the pressure is released, I can take them out of the multi-cooker. Oh, look at that steam. That's a very good sign. So I can grab the rim of the pan. Ooh, it's nice and steamy. So I'm gonna take off the foil and look at what's underneath. Now, if I play my cards right, they will slide right out. I love it when they come out in one piece. These are so great. Imagine sending these out the door 2 at a time, wrapped in a paper towel for your teenagers. Or if you're like me, you can enjoy them on a plate with a cup of coffee, a glass of orange juice. They're so versatile.
I'm starting with the best part, the bacon. I'm crisping it up in my pan. Now while this continues to crisp, I'm gonna whip up some eggs. Now I'm gonna add some shredded mozzarella. It's gonna make these eggs creamy and gooey. And I'm also gonna chop up some chives for a nice pop of freshness. I'll pour these right in. Okay, I'm gonna check on my bacon now. Oh, it's looking really crispy, just the way I like it. And I'm gonna use the bacon fat that's in my pan to cook my eggs. Now I'm gonna cook these eggs until they're just set. I do not wanna overcook them because otherwise they'll get dry. My eggs are looking great. I'm gonna remove them from the heat and I'm gonna transfer them to a bowl so they don't continue cooking in the pan. Now I'll season with salt and black pepper. And I love hot sauce on my scrambled eggs. So I'm gonna add a few shakes of that. And now I'll get my puff pastry. My puff pastry has thawed overnight in the fridge so that it's soft and easy to work with. And I'm gonna dust my surface with some flour so that the puff pastry doesn't stick. I love puff pastry. Whenever I eat these, I end up with crumbs all over my body, but it's worth it. Okay, I'm gonna roll this out until I have a 15 by 10 rectangle, and now I'm gonna cut this into 2 rows of 3 squares. Okay, Now I'll transfer my squares to my baking sheet that I've lined with parchment paper so that they don't stick. I'll evenly space these out. And now I'm ready to assemble. So to assemble these, I'm first gonna add a smear of scallion cream cheese, the best cream cheese in my opinion. I'm just adding a thin layer. I don't wanna add too much filling, otherwise they might start leaking out in the oven. Okay, next I'm gonna add some bacon. And I'm adding the bacon underneath the egg so that the bacon doesn't poke through the puff pastry when I fold it over. Okay, next I'm gonna add some of my scrambled egg mixture. Oh, these are gonna be delicious. Go ahead, make a big batch. These reheat beautifully in the toaster oven or the microwave. You can keep them in the freezer. And I'll seal them up with a little egg wash. Now I'll fold these over and then pinch the edges to seal them shut. And I want to pinch the edges well so that they don't open up in the oven. It's okay if at this point they look a little rustic because the magic of puff pastry is that in the oven, it's gonna puff up and look beautiful no matter what. So now before these go in the oven, I'm gonna brush the tops with egg wash, and that's gonna help them get golden and shiny. And then it's also going to help my topping stick. I'm gonna sprinkle the tops of these with everything bagel topping. These are so fun. Okay, now these are gonna bake at 375 for 30 minutes until they're golden brown and puffy. These puffed up perfectly. Look at those layers. They are gonna be so flaky and buttery and good. I can't wait to eat these.
Let's get started. We're gonna start by making the apple sausage. So basically this is a pork sausage with apples running through it. I'm gonna grate some onions and the apple, and I'm gonna add a little garlic, and we're gonna saute that for our sausage. You know, we wanna get a lot of flavor into our ground pork. So we have a Granny Smith apple here, and the apples are obviously gonna lend a really nice natural fruitiness and sweetness to this. And I'm just gonna crush some garlic. All right, so I'm gonna saute these vegetables in a little bit of oil, some canola oil. Just don't want the raw flavor of the onions and the garlic. You know, while we're at it, we'll give the apples a little cook too. All right, so I need some ground pork. You know, it's really easy to make your own sausage, your own breakfast sausage. What you do is you just take your ground pork and just season it. So a little bit of cayenne, some salt and pepper, some sage, some fresh thyme. And then I can take my onions, garlic, and apple, a little bit of maple syrup, just a splash. Obviously, you don't want to make it sweet. I'm gonna put this back in the refrigerator, let all these flavors kind of get together, and then we'll form sausage patties, and then we'll cook them. All right, let's make some hollandaise sauce. I'm gonna take 3 eggs, 3 egg yolks. And I love eating eggs Benedict. It's, you know, it's an old school brunch dish. It's basically poached eggs with a sauce that has more eggs and butter on top. It's a good place to indulge, especially for brunch. So I like to cook my eggs right on top of the stove in a metal bowl. A lot of times people cook it over a double boiler, but this is the way I was taught, and this is the way I always do it. And the whole point is to really be careful not to scramble the eggs. You just want them to get this sort of pale yellow color, and obviously they're gonna get nice and light. We want to create a ribbon when we do that, so that it all stays together. All right, we're good. Now I'm gonna take some clarified butter. We're gonna slowly add to the cooked egg yolks so that they emulsify. If you add it too quickly, it's gonna separate, and really you're gonna have to start over. What you're looking for is a balance of butter to egg yolks in terms of flavor. See, in that case, I can taste the eggs and I can taste the butter almost in a perfect balance. So then I'm gonna add a little bit of lemon juice. And this is gonna be a mustard-flavored hollandaise sauce. And the reason why I'm using mustard is because it goes so nicely with apples and pork. A little hot sauce, some Dijon mustard, and some whole grain mustard for a little bit of texture. The mustard is also gonna thicken the hollandaise up a little bit. A little salt and pepper. That's done. Now we're gonna get our pork back out. And I like using a cast iron pan for this. It's gonna give us a really nice crust on the outside. We're gonna make our patties. I'm gonna make them nice and flat. One of my earliest memories is pork chops and applesauce that my mother would make me. I always tell this story. She would cook the pork chops, and then to sort of gourmet up the meal, she would take like jarred applesauce and put cinnamon in it, and that was like big time gourmet, because there's cinnamon in the jarred applesauce. So, anyway, times have changed. So we're gonna take our pork sausages, put them in our cast iron. I mean, basically, you're gonna look for the edges of the sausages to get really nice and golden. And so probably, because they're really thin, these are probably gonna take about 3 minutes on one side and a couple of minutes on the other. We just want the pork cooked through. They're gonna be great, lots of flavor. Let's get the English muffins in the toaster, and then we'll talk about the poached eggs. People sometimes have a hard time poaching eggs, and they really shouldn't. I mean, it's a very simple concept. You have some water that's steaming, and then you take some distilled vinegar, and that's gonna actually help the poached eggs coagulate or sort of come together and poach really nicely. So you can see the sausages get a little crusty, but you want a nice crust on the outside of the sausages. And also, like, the apples in here are gonna cook a little bit quicker, so it's gonna give it a little bit of a darker color. It's okay. Just gonna use a little ramekin. Just in case I break the egg, I'm not gonna have to fish it out of the water. We have our sausages. These look really nice. Beautiful. We just made this beautiful apple sausage to go with our eggs Benedict. I'm gonna plate my eggs Benedict here. It's beautiful. I'm gonna take a couple of English muffins, some of our pork and apple sausage right on top. And we're gonna take a couple of eggs, our beautiful poached eggs, and then some hollandaise sauce. And the hollandaise sauce is flavored with some Dijon and also some whole grain mustard. Just put a little bit right on top. And then if you want to garnish with some fresh thyme, remember we had some fresh thyme and sage running through the sausage, why not? Just kind of reinforce those flavors, and it looks good too. All right, let's give it a taste. So many different textures there. You have the crispiness of the English muffin, then you have the pork sausage with the apple running through it, and that nice silky soft egg and the hollandaise with a little bit of mustard. The thing I love about this, it all goes really, really nicely together. It kind of makes perfect sense, and so why not make brunch out of it? There you go.
Cheesy ham and egg hand pies. You can also call them cheesy ham and egg pockets. You can call them cheesy egg pockets. Cheesy pockets with eggs, ham, and eggs. Wait, no, hold on.
Eggs, ham, and eggs.
Cheesy pockets with eggs, ham, and cheese. It really doesn't matter what you call it. All that matters is you've got to make these. It's so great. Perfect for spring. So I've got some butter in a skillet, and I'm just adding scrambled eggs, whipped eggs, with some salt and pepper. And then I have a bunch of chopped chives, which is a very springy ingredient. I'm just gonna stir the eggs and cook them slowly over medium heat until they're scrambled. Don't leave me. It'll go by really fast. These look good. Some eggs look better than others,
Yeah, I agree. Those look really good.
And just like that, the eggs are scrambled. They look glorious. I was noticing when they were scrambling just how beautiful and fluffy they look. There's something about scrambled eggs with chives that weakness of mine. I just love them. So I'm putting them into a bowl so that they will quickly cool down. These are great little just pockets that you can bake and serve for breakfast. You can serve them for lunch with a little side salad. And then I'm gonna add some ham. I didn't want to add the ham to the skillet because I didn't want to contribute to everything being hot, 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 and the ham is already cooked. So the ham's gonna kind of help cool things down so that I can add the cheese, because these are cheesy ham and egg hand pies, as I said a few minutes ago, right? So I've got grated cheddar and mozzarella cheese, and then I'll just toss, and by now the eggs are kind of cool enough that it's not gonna turn the cheese into a melty, stringy mess. Give me a spoon and leave me alone.
I could just eat this.
Honestly. Whoever invented eggs with cheese is a gosh darn genius. Okay, so now I'm gonna make the pockets. So I'm using puff pastry, and I thawed out 2 sheets and then cut them into 12 squares of equal size. And I'm gonna get a spoon, get a big scoop of the egg mixture, pretty generous, because I mean, if you're gonna grab a cheesy ham and egg hand pie, you definitely wanna have the cheese, ham, and eggs inside. You don't wanna miss them. So then I have a little bit of an egg wash, just egg and water. And I'm gonna brush the rim pretty generously because this acts as sort of a glue. Okay, then a second square. Actually, this isn't a square, it's a rectangle. And when you put it on, you kind of want to stretch it just a little bit to make sure that it's going to meet the edges. You want to look at this up close, Alex? So you can meet the edges of the pastry and just meet them up. Press them together, kind of force out any air bubbles that are forming in the center. Make sure it's not filled with a big air bubble. And then take a fork and press all along the edge just to crimp everything together. Okay, so that is one cute little pocket or hand pie. I'm gonna put this on the tray and do 5 more just like it. All right, I got them all assembled, and I sort of misjudged the amount to put in the first few. We have some eggs to eat as a snack, Alex. I'm sure you don't mind that at all.
Sign me up.
I love these. So I'm brushing the egg wash all over the surface, and that's gonna help them get kind of glossy and stay pretty when they bake. Now you can actually assemble these like they are now and then freeze them just like this. Flash freeze them in the freezer for a few minutes until they're kind of hard, and then you can just store them in plastic bags and bake them from a frozen state. Now that is some really good planning if you can pull that off. Okay, so then just to give them a little bit of decoration and crunch on top, I'm gonna sprinkle on some poppy seeds, and that egg wash will just really help them stick. You can also sprinkle a little bit of grated cheese on top instead of the poppy seeds, and they'd sort of like little shards of cheese will bake right on the surface. Okay, let's go put these in the oven. 400 degrees, 20 minutes. And then we are gonna eat them. I'm hungry. All right, it's been 20 minutes and 13 seconds. So look at these, Alex.
Oh, wow.
I can't move, I can't speak.
Those look amazing.
Oh, they look so good, don't they? I have to put them on a platter, even though it's just you and me, Alex. So let's take a look. How do they look?
They look amazing. They're so fluffy.
Wow, gorgeous. I think we should cut into one, don't you?
Yes.
I am so ready for this. Get in here, Alex. You have to see the details.
Yum.
Oh, they look so perfect. Look.
So good.
That pastry. Okay, you want to share one?
Yes.
Here you go. Okay. I think I should just go in and report my findings. Happy spring.
Those are really good.
Breakfast or lunch? The answer is yes. Love these. I'm making baked eggs in hash brown cups. I've got 8 potatoes that I baked at 400 for about 45 minutes or so. I baked them until they were just tender. They're totally cooled, so they're really easy to grate. If they were still hot, I wouldn't be able to hold on to them. The grated potatoes are gonna wind up looking like little nests, and then I crack an egg in. They're so adorable. All right, I got all the potatoes grated, which is a good thing because the grater is totally full. So I'll just fish all of them out of there. They are packed. Okay, now this is a lot of potatoes, so I'm gonna season them pretty well with plenty of salt. I'll just toss them around with my fingers, and plenty of pepper. And when these bake, they're gonna get nice and crisp. I just love these things, so good. All right, now I've got 2 muffin pans, and to make sure the nests don't stick, I'm gonna spray them really, really well with cooking spray. All right, the second one. And now I'll make the nests. I'm gonna take about 3 to 4 tablespoons of the potato mixture and put it into one of the muffin tins. Then I'll use my fingers to really, really lightly press it so it goes around the sides. You wanna get little jagged edges of potatoes on the sides. That's what makes it look like a nest. All right, 1 tray of nests done, 1 more to go. That's a lot of nests. All right, now the very last thing, I'm gonna spray the tops really lightly with just a little more cooking spray. That'll help them get nice and crisp and sizzly in the oven. All right, I'm gonna pop these into a 450-degree oven for just about 15 or 20 minutes. They're gonna start to get a little bit crisp and golden brown. This is such a cool little dish, so cute and so delicious. All right, I'm just gonna crack an egg and drop it into each cup. All right, now I've got a lot more to do, so I better get cracking. All right, now I'm just gonna sprinkle these with salt and pepper. Ooh, these look good. Plenty of pepper. I like pepper on my eggs. All right, now these just need to go into a 400-degree oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. We better hurry, I think they're hungry.
Hot food, gotta get it to the table.
So I'm gonna make herb baked eggs for Jeffrey and me. Watch how easy this is, great. So I'm gonna mix together 1/4 teaspoon of fresh thyme, right in this bowl. 1/4 teaspoon of fresh rosemary. There's all kinds of French herbs. You wanna use it judiciously because it's such a strong herb. And be sure that you chop it really well. Into the bowl. 1/4 teaspoon of fresh garlic. This has all kinds of Provençal flavors in it. One tablespoon of chopped parsley. You can either use flat leaf or curly parsley. I kind of like a rough chop. It doesn't have to be too finely chopped. One tablespoon of parsley. And 1 tablespoon of Parmesan cheese. Just be sure to use good fresh Parmesan cheese. Okay, so these are the gratin dishes that the eggs are gonna go into. And I'm gonna crack 3 eggs into each bowl. You wanna do it really carefully so you don't break the yolks. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit of butter, put it in the gratin dish. A little bit of cream. Just drop. Oops. You can put these on a tray. And I made some little pieces of toast I'm gonna serve with the eggs. I'm gonna put these in the broiler for about 3 minutes till the dish gets really hot and the butter is nice and bubbly. And then when the eggs hit, they'll start to cook immediately. So the creamy butter for the eggs, probably done. Perfect. It's nice and hot and bubbly. I'm gonna carefully slide the eggs into each one so I don't break the yolks. They'll just start to cook immediately. So the dish is really hot. And then I'm going to put on my mixture of thyme, garlic, rosemary, parsley, and Parmesan. It's all very Provençal. Salt and pepper. Into the broiler for about 5 minutes until it's hot and bubbly and delicious. Eggs are perfect. The whites are firm and the yolks are still soft. Salads, very French. Hope Jeffrey likes it. So, you look very comfortable sitting there.
Oh, that looks
I
great.
have my French-inspired flowers.
What do you got there?
I have baked eggs with Provençal
Isn't
herb.
that lovely?
And then later, the way the French have a salad after the meal, I have an endive salad with blue cheese and pears.
Oh. That is just delicious.
Everyone has their own system for making scrambled eggs, but I have a method that'll impress even your mother-in-law. So I'm going to start with about 1.5 tablespoons of butter, and you want it on really low heat. That's the first key. So I've got 8 eggs. I use extra large eggs. I'm just going to whisk them a little bit. I'm going to add 1/4 cup of half and half. You can use milk if you want to, but half and half adds that little je ne sais quoi. 1 teaspoon of salt. 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. I'm going to cook it on a very low heat. Protein gets tough when it's on a high heat. So if you cook eggs on a very low heat, they're really tender and just incredibly delicious. So I've got 8 eggs. I usually figure 2 to 3 eggs per person. And then I'm just going to pour it in. Make sure there's butter all around because you don't want it to stick. Okay, now this is the key. You want to let them sit and just warm up really slowly. And then after about 3 to 5 minutes, I'll start to stir them with the spatula. They're going to be light and fluffy and so delicious. Don't go away. Okay, the eggs have heated up. It's time to go in with a spatula. You want to scrape the whole bottom. Just fold them over like this, but don't turn up the heat. I know you have to be very patient, and I'm not one for patience, but for this, it's really worth it. As they go, just stir them a little bit so they get nice and fluffy, and then right at the end, stir them really rapidly. And this is 1 egg dish. You don't have to have room temperature eggs. Come right out of the fridge. So now you can really see it's becoming a custard-like consistency, and that's when you want to start stirring it. These look great. I would say these are scrambled eggs good enough for a breakfast party. So one of the keys is turn off the heat just before they're done because the heat in the pan is going to keep cooking them. So that's perfect right now. Okay, now some truffle butter. So I need 2 tablespoons of truffle butter. I'm actually using truffle butter for 2 reasons. One is for the flavor, which is amazing, but also the cold truffle butter will keep the eggs from cooking any further. It'll stop the cooking. Okay, and I think some fresh chives. I'm just gonna mince them up. I'm using chives because I think it really stands up to the truffles, but you can use whatever green herb you like. And stir this in. See what I mean? It's really cooking while it's sitting here. I wish you could smell the truffles. It's so good. Okay, time to plate this up. So I've got a piece of brioche toast. This is gonna be so good. This is enough for 4, but I'm just making 1 serving just to make sure it's great. It'd be nice to have a little green on it, so I thought little chopped chives. I may have to taste this and see if it really is good. Wow, That's just amazing.